I didn't, but I've met Gerard once when
Okay.
he was here in Barbados. When Dale Brunton brought him over for a seminar, one of their Doug One Fast seminars, and he
Right.
invited me to come by. So
Okay.
I can't say if I can't remember if I met him as in had a conversation with him, but I certainly attended. I viewed the seminar he did on Doug One Fast
Yeah.
way back.
Yeah. Well, all right. Okay. So let me do the invitation. I mean, the the introduction, right? Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel. Welcome to episode number 300, special milestone episode with my longtime good friend, associate, student, fellow instructor, colleague, whatever titles can I give you, Wayne? This is Wayne Quintyne from Unified Martial Art in Barbados, and like I said in the postcard, 300 is a special episode, so I needed it to be with somebody who is of great significance to me. And I've said this before. I probably don't say often enough, but Wayne is one of my heroes because he pulled off in Barbados something that I don't think I would ever have been able to pull off, and that was to become the first full-time professional martial arts instructor, right? And I guess he's been doing an excellent job of that because we had a really rough time putting this together. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it on a Wednesday or a Friday because of your schedule and what have you. So tell me, let's start there. What is your teaching schedule like these days?
Um, well, good afternoon first and foremost. Excuse me, I'm squinting, so I'm going to put these on. Hopefully that'll help.
Join the club.
Um, it's mellowed a little bit in that I teach 6 days a week, about 4 to 5 hours a day. So we have classes. We have some morning classes and some and some evening classes, usually from 3:30, some most days to about 8:15. So that's usually between 4 to 5 classes. But again, that's me.
Yeah.
I love to train, so therefore I want to train everything, and I have a schedule that reflects my interests.
So you are the Bajan Dan and Asano.
I wouldn't. That's too great a compliment for me. But I am influenced by Seafood
Right.
and
I mean, in terms,
and you, because I mean that's a schedule you used to keep as well.
yeah.
Back in the days when we back in the '90s when I would visit you
Right.
in Miami.
Yeah, but so that's one of the other reasons why I admire you so greatly because you still have the stamina to keep up that kind of a schedule. Inasano is like that also. He teaches Monday morning, he teaches Monday evening. When we go out for seminars or for camp or what have you, he doesn't only maybe on a Saturday do they stop classes. But if he's teaching camp, I mean, you go to Legends, right?
I haven't been for a while. I usually
Right.
go to the instructors conference. My last Legends was probably around 2010. I was surprised to realize how long ago, or 2013, how long ago
Oh,
since
really?
I've been. Yeah.
Well, that's because you're
Usually.
too, that's because you're too busy going to Thailand.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's just a question of balancing time and funds.
Yeah.
You know, it's we don't have the blessing of American-based students where we can hop on a plane for like 100 US and fly from this state to that state to train. It's way more costly. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's more challenging to get over to the US. And then with COVID and other issues, it just made it even more challenging.
Hmm. Hey, I just took a look here at the comments. So Jamie Sparling from Wisconsin is saying hello to you. I don't know if you can see the comments on your screen, right?
Yes, actually.
In fact, you know what? Let me just put it up. So Jamie says that you helped him tremendously during his first instructor training. Do you remember that?
Um, I'm terrible with names and better with faces. But I think if you know me, I'm very happy to help anybody who's trained. I enjoy training, and so I will train with anyone. And of course, I want the best for them because if they get the best, then they in return can give the best to me. I can't improve unless the persons I'm working with are also improving. That's the only way you get better. So
Okay.
that's always been my attitude towards working with persons.
He says it was 13 years ago, 2011.
Wow. Okay. My memory is not that great. um, Anything past yesterday is a blur. I'm never good with timelines
Yeah.
because I recently pulled up some video that we used for International Women's Day. I was trying to look for some video of female students who train and pedal. My wife and another female student, Simone, had gone to Legends Camp with me.
Right.
And to me, that felt like it was just the other day.
Mhm.
But apparently, when I checked, that was like 2013 or 2010, somewhere
Right.
between there,
Yeah.
that had happened. So
I
time is a
saw
blur.
a video of yours that I think had something to do with Women's Day also. I think when I was looking for pictures to put up on the postcard,
Yeah.
I saw something that you guys had put together, which was another thing I wanted to ask you about because like your flyers or the ads that you put on Instagram, like for summer camp, for the kids' summer camp and what have you, right? Who is the artist behind all that stuff?
Okay. If it's the flyers, particularly summer camp flyers, that's my wife. That's Pedal. She does most of that work. If it's video, usually, well, 80% of the video it would be produced by me. I sit down and I have a little, I'm not great. So, the computer came with a program and I will edit the video there.
Right.
So some of the flyers I do myself, particularly if it's a skill specific workshop, I may create those as well myself.
Do
But when
you
it comes to summer camp, she does most of those.
do you have an extra pedal around that you could send my way?
I wish I did, but unfortunately not.
If you if
Yeah,
you had if you had an extra pedal, you would probably keep her, right? So you'd have two.
yes, so I'd have a spare, yes, and get twice as much done because she puts up with my nonsense. She's put it with me for, well, close to 20 years. October this year will be 20 years we've been married, and she's put
Nice.
up with my BS for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been very fortunate in that regard that I have someone who is willing to support my dream. And in many cases, it's still a dream because it has not fully materialized yet. And she's been willing to support. And I probably could not have gotten where I have gotten to so far without her.
Yeah. I when I was looking around on Facebook. Wait, let me ask you this. You don't spend as much time on Facebook as you do on Instagram, correct?
No, not anymore. But I don't spend that much time on Instagram either, to be honest with you. So if you look at the post, you will
Smart
realize.
guy.
Yeah, if you look at the post, you will see periodically I'll post maybe 4 or 5 clips, and then for a while I'm not on there. Um, you do need to have a social media presence, and it should be active, but I just don't have the time. There's a lot of material that I would like put out there, but I'm not in a position to hire someone to actually do that for me.
Hmm.
And so it's challenging to be able to have that out as often. But with the mixed media platforms, if that's the term, I'm not sure. You can post from one platform and it goes to all the others. So that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah.
So when I post now, I would post on Facebook and it would post automatically to Instagram. In most
Right.
cases, that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I think that happened. Do you do that on the computer or on the phone?
On the computer mostly. I am
Really?
dislike my phone. I dislike the phone on the whole,
Yeah.
for the most part. Phones are meant to be have per one-on-one conversations. That's what phones are supposed to be for. Now they've taken on a whole new life, and I have a difficulty stopping. Well, you see, I'm wearing glasses. I can't be squinting and trying to do stuff on a
Hmm.
low phone.
Right.
It doesn't work for me. So I prefer to use my laptop.
Yep. Spoken like a true Bajan Luddite, because I feel the same way. And every once in a while, I have to stop and remember that the people with whom I am interacting online are probably
Mhm.
on their phones,
Yeah,
whereas 99% of the time, I'm on my computer.
yeah.
You
Well, I
know.
mean, that's pretty much all they know. And
Yeah.
many if you're dealing with someone in their 20s or younger, some of them may not even know what Facebook is. You know, that's something for old people. That's what the
Right.
old
That's what I
people
heard. That's what
do, you
I
know.
heard. Yeah.
So if you're not Snapchatting or one of the other media that they use,
Yeah.
they haven't a clue what you're talking about.
All right.
And
So
that's too. They don't. Most of them don't even know who Bruce Lee is, and that's an unfortunate
So
circumstance.
okay, yeah, that's an intriguing aspect because sometimes I wonder, like, there's a WhatsApp group that's called Vintage Airport Folk, right? So it's people who, like me, worked at Grantley Adams back in the day,
Hmm.
right? And so when I see stuff that's on there, like a question for me is always how much influence is there on this small island? How much influence is there from or by the big countries, right? I don't like using the terms like first world and third world and whatever, but you
Uh-huh.
know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So that apparently is a phenomenon that exists here also, where there's a generation that's not aware of who Bruce Lee is. So you encounter that predominantly or primarily, or
Um, that is where we're at now.
wow.
The reality is I'm not a kid anymore. I feel like I'm still young, but when I have conversations with my younger students, I realize just how old I am.
Mhm.
So um, a lot of young people now, a lot of teenagers, they don't have a clue who Bruce Lee is, or if they see him, he's just that guy who starred in that movie on screen.
Right.
No different than Jackie Chan or Jet Li or any other. So that's their only reference point. What they may have seen a clip on it of him on YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
But in terms of what his role in martial arts was and how significant an individual he was and a martial
Yeah.
artist, and even more so his art, they are not really
Do
aware
you
of
make
that.
it do you
You
make it a
know,
point to inform them of it?
well, I should do a better job of it. I do, but I should probably do a better job of it. It's a constant conversation. Generally speaking, everything today is a
Mhm.
conversation because kids are so like the technology that they're used to today is it's such that their access to information is really
Right.
easy. Their retention of information is not. So even today, if I teach something today and I come back and I ask them to reproduce it
Mhm.
tomorrow, they have difficulty sometimes. Their terminology is not um, terminology is not something that
Right.
matters
Yeah.
to them. So if you give a name to something and you teach it and you use that name again, they haven't a clue what you're talking about because it wasn't important enough for them to retain it. And that is a phenomenon that we're dealing with today because kids don't feel the need to, because they have these devices that they believe that anytime they want the answer, they can just go and click on it to get the answer. So retaining things in their minds and their brains is not a priority for them.
Is it a priority
So
for you?
yes, it is, because, and this is something I've been noticing over the last 10, 20 years, teaching wise. When I learned JKD, when I started in JKD and I got exposed to Bruce Lee, and then I got exposed to different martial arts as a result of Jeet Kune, I wanted to absorb everything. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to know the ins and outs, and I wanted to know why it got to that point. How is it that it arrived here? So even the history was important to me. Today, it's very, very challenging because I grew up in this. I'm a seminar kid, in essence. Besides training with you, it's most of my training with Sifu Dan and any of the other seniors has been through the seminar circuit. So I would come to Miami for Inasano seminars. I'd come for Ajahn Chai seminars. Anyone you had a seminar with, I would come there and train. And so my learning process is through that seminar process. And that seminar process, particularly with Sifu Dan, is about dissemination of information. So it wasn't, oh, I want you to perfect this at this seminar, but rather I am giving you information that you can take and you can work on this for the next year, next 2 years,
Right.
and develop your ability and your skill with. So for me, it was taking every ounce of information because I didn't know if I could afford to return to that seminar.
Hey,
Because,
can you see the picture I just put up?
Yeah.
You see it?
Yes, I can. I see also the highlight.
Yeah.
So I'm in there somewhere.
That's you.
That's me.
That's you in the they look orange, but I think those were yellow pants.
Oh yes, that was probably my very first seminar because those are the only pants that I could get that were available in Asana pants. So I had to buy them. Not necessarily that they were my favorite color, but I wanted something to mark and honor the occasion.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That was my very first seminar, which was in around 92, 93, I think.
Yeah, apparently this was 92.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my very first seminar with Sifu Dan.
According to Omar, that was 92 in Miami Springs.
Yes.
Right.
That was an eye opener for me.
And then I don't have a image of it. I don't have a picture from it, but I think then you came back in 95 when we were at, remember Better Families through Taekwondo?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, I think you came back. I think you came back in 95 for that one.
Yes, I definitely was there. I remember that seminar. Chad Stahelski was the assistant for Sifu Dan at that one.
So you were at that one. Yeah.
Yes, I have a picture of me. There's a photo I have of me, and it's not up, but around with me doing folk Smith drill with Chad. So I'm very pleased to be able to say to people, I know John Wick. I know
exactly.
I worked out with him. He's my senior.
Yeah. Now, if you do that, is that impressive to them? Because John Wick is more their era than Bruce Lee is?
Yes, to some degree. But again, I'm a little too humble for my life, maybe, because it's not something that I advertise. It's not a big. I don't advertise. Oh, this person I know, that person that's never been my way. Yeah. I have to change that now because marketing requires it, I guess.
Well, you do. But, you do, and see, I think I would have been the same way if I had stayed in Barbados. Yeah. Right. But now, being a first worlder, right? I have so much ego now, right?
Yeah, well, maybe.
So then the next thing would be to find The Island with Michael Jai White and my fight scene.
Okay.
Right.
See, I have to go find that. I have Only the Strong. I still have a copy of Only the Strong
Okay.
somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I so I found The Island on Amazon Prime, but I
Yeah.
don't have I don't have a copy of it. Um, but you know what? I think I might find a way to be able to
Well,
download
I
it.
won't tell you the illegal ways of getting copies of it because this is that only works on my side of the world because
Right.
nobody's going to chase you down. But over
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
I would recommend it.
But you know what you just made me think of? You just made me think of the guys from. Do you remember what was it called? Do you remember Chubby's video?
Yes,
Right.
I used to have a relationship with them back in my video rental days and video sales days.
Yeah. Right. I know that I used to fly those guys up to Miami on Eastern back in the
Uh,
day. Right. And my understanding was that they would um, they would rent the hotel room and hook up the VCR to the TV,
and
right?
just
And
record
just
everything.
go.
Yeah. Then come back down, edit, and put it on the shelves.
Right? I
Yes,
mean,
they weren't the only ones who did that.
yeah. But to me, there's a certain ingenuity to that it probably that kind of ingenuity probably still exists. It's just done differently now.
Yep,
It's not
it
as
has changed. It
right.
has changed, but it's still there. Guys still sell. I don't know if they still do because of Netflix and all these other options available. But
Mhm.
up to maybe 10 years ago, you were selling DVDs on the side of the road for $5. So
Yeah.
the medium changed, and I'm sure they'll come up with a way. No, sorry, actually, it still exists. It's called Fire Stick, right? Right.
Yeah.
So there's always innovation. There's always guys are always going to look for a way to hustle
Right.
because essentially that's what it is. And we may think that it's illegal, unethical, or whatever, but the reality is people have to survive and
Right.
they have to eat. So it's like back in the day, I would be so annoyed about persons who claim to be Jeet Kune instructors or Muay Thai instructors or whatever, or have you, who never trained a day in their life with any credible instructor in that discipline. And though although it's still a concern, it's way less of a concern. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince someone that these guys shouldn't be teaching or that they're not qualified and they don't know what they're doing
Yeah.
because those guys are trying to survive too and consumer beware. So if they have something that they think they can offer and you believe that what they have to offer is of value, that's on you. What I'm not about to chase someone down and you have to shut your school down or whatever because you're not legit. That's not really my responsibility. My responsibility is to shine the light.
Right.
So if you are out there looking, then if you are diligent, you will look around and you will be able to compare what I do with what they do. And you get to determine if where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that's up to you because whatever benefit you derive, that's yours, right? And whatever they offer you that is beneficial, I don't know. They may offer something you that may not be martial at all, but it might be something that that's revolutionary to your life, that may change your life. And it may not be a punch or a kick at all. It may be something they said to you or an idea, and who am I to rob you of that?
So you have not appointed yourself the martial art police, the Jeet Kune police, right?
No, not anymore. I may have thought 20, 30 years ago, I may have thought of myself in those terms, but
Yeah.
at this stage, no, because again, who you are and what you do, if you are consistent and if you're honest, that comes to the fore. I've had people who've trained with me who've left and gone other places. They've tried this and that, and they're back here again. But now they're in a better position because they have the opportunity to compare what they're receiving from me with what they've tried and they've received from others.
Right.
And they're comfortable. They know that they are where they need to be.
Yeah, we were talking about something similar to this yesterday, because the whole police thing, because I'm on Facebook a lot. I have the 2 podcasts and what have you. And what I realize is that there are people out there. So the whole gist of the conversation yesterday was taking yourself too seriously. And I think because I'm somewhat prolific, people think that I take myself seriously. Right? So like right now, earlier today, a guy says Bruce Lee practiced Sunum Lao every day of his life. And I'm like, okay, you sure it's every day of his life? And then he says to me, I don't understand people who try to, he didn't use the word diminish, right? But it's like people who try to dispute what is common knowledge. Well, it's not common knowledge for me. It's not that common. I had no idea. So then my question is, okay, well, how do you know this? And have you verified it for yourself? See, but the thing is, I'm not trying to be right. And I'm not trying to say that he is wrong. I just I want to go as far as we can with this in it's not even in an antagonistic way. It's just like, okay, well, I didn't know that he practiced the Wing Chun form every day of his life. So if somebody says he did, but tell me how you know that. And
I understand you perfectly. It's like my wife says in the conversation recently. If anybody heard me speaking about having a discussion, a spiritual discussion, particularly about Christianity, they would think that I don't believe in God. But that's not true.
Right.
I do. I'm a very strong believer in God. But my philosophy is that if you are going to take any religious stance, you need to be able to validate your belief. I shouldn't be able to shake you from your belief if that's what you really believe. I will challenge you, because if you say you believe in this thing, whatever it is, whether it's Christianity, is Islam, or whatever, then I'm going to ask you questions. And if you are secure in your belief, then you should have no problem answering those questions. I shouldn't be able to shake your faith. So that's just me.
If you're secure in your knowledge, you don't have to hide it.
Why hide it?
Why hide it?
Just bring it out. 1980 Way the Warrior, Kung Fu.
Right. I have no idea how many people will get that reference. We'll pick up on that, right? So let's do the classical questionnaire thing that I sometimes send out to people, right? Because sometimes, since I'm older than you are and you're old, right? I need to have my memory refreshed. So you and I share Harrison College in common, right?
Yes.
Do we share Wesley Hall also?
No, I went to Bay Primary, which is now Bay Composite School. That was in, doesn't matter what I call it because most people won't know, but I was in the Bayland, what they call the Bayland area.
Right.
So yeah, that primary school was different, but we both at Harrison College.
Okay, now clear something up for me, because yesterday, one of my junior JKDer parents was asking me which grade was most difficult for me, because his 12-year-old is now experiencing, the academic challenges and what have you. So he was asking me, right? And I couldn't remember. We get promoted from 3rd form to 4th form, and that's when the uniform changed, right?
Changes, yeah. Well,
Okay.
that in the old days, in the old
Right.
days,
Okay. Now, when do you take O levels, in fifth form or in fourth form?
you take O levels used to be in fifth form. However, many of the kids today take it in fourth, some even in third.
Really?
Yeah, depending. So you have, generally speaking, in my day, it was 8 O levels you did. Now kids are doing up to 13.
No
Okay.
way.
And it's now CSEC. It's no longer O level. It's not GCE anymore. It's Common Entrance, Caribbean Examination,
Right.
Council certification. So now they do about 13. Some of them do three, 4, 5 in fourth form, and then they get to repeat. So if you didn't do well with those particular exams, you can do them over in fifth form.
That's
And
interesting.
then you still have the opportunity for, so if you got like a grade 2, if you got like a grade 2 in fourth form, and you sat it, and you can still sit it in fifth form to get a grade 1, to hopefully get a grade 1.
Okay.
So it's amazing. I mean, intellectually, kids are way smarter intellectually. They can absorb so much more information, and they're doing things a lot sooner. Physically, um,
Yeah.
they have seriously regressed.
Wow.
So basic motor skills you'd be amazed. This is what I was saying, what I was alluding to earlier. The need, why it's become so important to dummy down. So while I could train in 3, 4 different disciplines in one day and have no difficulty performing in those 3 disciplines in the same day over time, now it's very difficult for persons to get one discipline, and it's very difficult for them to perform basic skills in that one discipline. So if you have a 1-hour class, back in the day, you may do 10 drills in that 1-hour class. Today, if you get 2, 3 drills done,
Right.
you've gotten a lot done. And that is the unfortunate challenge, because they're so uncoordinated. So you have to really go back to very basic skills. You have to teach people essentially how to walk in the martial arts terms, and that is concerning.
Yeah. But at least they're showing up, right? At least they something is driving them.
Yeah, there's that desire, but then again, the discipline, because they will show up. But we always I got this quote from Seabat Burton Richardson a long while ago, that about proficiency in Jeet Kune, which is constant, consistent, correct practice over an extent. Well, I change it from long to extended, because that term long scared a lot of people, right? So I would say over an extended period of time.
Right.
The challenge is that nobody is that these days. They may be constant, but they're not consistent. They may be consistent, but they're not constant in what they do. So again, it's challenging. And with the amount of learning disorders that exist today, whether that is a crutch for some or not, you have situations where you're teaching. I can teach you this motion, I get you to do it correctly, and then 30 seconds later, you're back to square one. And for the life of me, I guess I may be a little too harsh thinking about, but I say all the time, I can understand you going from doing something wrong to doing it right, but I cannot for the life of me gather why you can go from doing it right to doing it wrong. How do you what is not registering? What is not sticking? Why is it not registering? Why is it not sticking that you can get it, perform it 3, 4 reps correctly, and then you go back to where you were before? So
I see that a lot. In fact, we have a running joke um, in my group where we have people who are good for 3 reps.
yeah,
By rep number 4, something happens and they space out.
yeah.
You
But
know,
I was doing a boxing course recently, and the facilitator was also I think she was a social worker. She had a degree in either psychology or social work or something along that line.
mm-hmm.
And so she pointed it out, and I was not. I didn't click to me until she said it. Excuse me, because she gave a breakdown of Gen Z and Gen X, and she's talking about the difference between of them now. And you have a situation where I remember when I was at school, we were told that the concentration span of children was 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the concentration span now is of most youngsters?
I don't know, like
8 seconds.
I was gonna say 9, yeah.
8 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you can't capture their interest and maintain their interest in 8 seconds, their brain is on to something else. So even in doing something they want to do, if it's not exciting, if it's not constantly turning over where it's exciting and you're doing the same thing, but you have to do it in a different way to keep their interest, then they do kind of space out. And unfortunately, it's not just the kids.
Right.
That's the problem. It's not just the kids.
Right. Yeah. They talk about kids all the time, but now does that mean? And the reason why you're the perfect guy to ask this is because let me read off for people here some of your so you're president and national coach of the National Kickboxing League of Barbados. You're a former light heavyweight kickboxing champion, right? And then
National,
right,
not international, national.
okay, right. And then you've got you're a boxing coach, a wrestling coach, and this is through international coaching associations and what have you,
Yeah,
right?
these are the international bodies. Well, IBA now there's a battle with boxing where IBA may no longer be the international body, but yeah, the certifications are with the internationally accredited or formally internationally accredited bodies that are recognized by the IOC or were recognized. So IBA, which became International Boxing Association. I'm a 1-star coach with them, and with the United World Wrestling. Forgive me, haven't looked back at these certificates in a while. I do the courses because I enjoy learning, but
right,
they're just paper.
So because of that, right? So this 8-second attention span in teaching them, then does that mean that every 8 seconds you have to change what you're teaching? Or what's the way, or how do you work with that?
No, what I'm trying to work with is finding ways of teaching the same skill, but making it exciting. So one of the big concepts for teaching nowadays is games. So when you're teaching even adults, you want to insert games into the practice that develop a particular attribute or skill relevant to what you're doing. So one of the things to do is do that. Have games that the kids can enjoy that they want to do. So every day nowadays the kids will come, sir, can we play this? Can we play that? Because they did it before and they enjoyed it. They want to do it again.
Right.
So what you have to do is be able to translate what it is you want to teach and have it in a format that they can enjoy and that you can change. So if you want to teach, I don't know if you remember back in this book, Absorb What Is Useful. I wouldn't bother to pull it up. Sifudan. There was this chapter, and in it he was expressing how he was teaching a class. And one day he was teaching a class, and he was teaching combinations, and Guy came afterwards and said, well, that was too much. That was overwhelming, all these different combinations. And Seafood, and in the book, Seafood Dan says he missed the point because what I was teaching was step and slide footwork.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of how I approach it. So I know what I want to teach, but I have different ways so that it doesn't become monotonous to them. But in there, within what I teach, there's that common thread.
Right.
That is there. So I'm really oversimplifying things now, both for adults and kids. So I may teach one combination a day now in the class. Like this week it was jab, hook, cross. That's it. Jab to hook to cross. But there were so many different ways I had them do it. So I changed the timing, I changed the levels, I then put counter offense in there. So jab, slip, hook, cross, jab, cover, hook, cross, jab, bob, weave, hook, cross. But so by the end of the day, they're not, they've cultivated the mechanics of the jab, hook, cross.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it in the exact same way over and over where it became monotonous. There was something for their mind to hold on to during each round or each drill.
Right.
That it made them have to stay focused.
Did you ever hear the phrase "disguise the repetition"?
It sounds faintly familiar. It sounds like something I would have heard you say.
You probably did. But the first time I heard it, which was attending martial arts business conferences, the first time I heard it, disguise the repetition, my brain rejected it because I hated the use of the word disguise. Why do I have to disguise it? You know what I mean? Right. But I think that it was an earnest attempt to do what you're talking about. Have them do the same thing, but try to ensure no boredom because it's not the same thing the same way all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and so I learned to love it. Well, no, I learned to accept it. I still don't love it as such. I'll just refrain from using it. But now I got to ask you, is it a Wayneism or a Quintynism when you come up with your own phrase? I forget what you call it.
An ism.
Oh,
you mean what I call it when I come up with something?
Yeah.
AQC. That's what I call it. Another Quintyne creation.
Right. So give me one that comes to mind.
Another Quintyne creation. Okay. Yeah. So I have the IED. So I have so when I teach Jeet Kune, So I've hacked away the inessentials, as you should, because that's the stage I'm at now in my life, where in terms of JKD, at my age, I am not looking to do all the things I was doing when I was 20, 30 years old, because my body is rebelling now.
Even though your mind says you're still 25.
Yes. My mind says I can still do it. I'm 25. I moved from 18. I used to be 18. Now I'm like 25. But so I'm hacking away. We're essentially, I'm in the shedding process, which is the important element of JKD. But I should say, before you can hack away the inessentials, you first have to accumulate. It's hard to shed if you haven't accumulated. So the research part is still important. That's an important key element for anybody in the process of Jeet Kune, researching your own. If you don't do the research, if you're not accumulating, then it's going to be hard to shed. But now I'm at that stage. So in terms of, I've come up with IED. So we had the 5 methods of, before the traditional 5 methods of defense, that we had: principle of distance, principle of block and hit, principle of simultaneous parry and hit, principle of evasion, principle of interception. Well, I have trimmed that. So now I'm at the IED stage, improvised explosive device, right? Because everybody knows what IED is. So So for me, there are only 3 levels of defense that I'm focused, that I teach, that I concentrate on, because everything else is an expression of.
Okay.
So for me, I is the highest level, of course, still interception. That's the highest level of any art, to be able to intercept your opponent's motion or intent. E is evasion. That's the second highest level. So avoid and counter. And then D is destroy. So I'm not concerned with blocking or distance or whatever, because my intent is always to destroy. So if you throw anything at me, if it comes out there and I can't evade it, if I cannot intercept it, then all I'm interested in doing is destroying it. So if your hand, and that's that defining the snake, basically, in Filipino principle, because if you have those 3 things, everything else is just a tangent to that, to those 3 principles.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes life a lot easier, because for me now, I don't have to stop to try to teach the 30 different counters I know to the jab necessarily, right? I only have to teach 3 things, and then you as a student can find your attribute, because you have to know what your attribute level is. Right. Some people are not do not have the attribute levels for interception, but they may have the attribute level for evasion. But some don't even have that, but they can they may have the attribute levels to destroy. Something comes in my way, present an elbow. Something comes in my way, use the knee. Something comes in my way, hit them with whatever I have in my hand, on their hand, or their knee, or whatever. Yeah. So that's easier for people to grasp than necessarily trying to explain, all the different methods: simultaneous parry and hit, Linseal Daida, Busao, and so on. Because again, we're still in the process where a lot of time we're using foreign terms. What are foreign terms to them? And today, nobody's interested in grasping. Nobody cares about the belt necessarily in the uniform. They're not interested in the terminology and the name. They're not interested in the culture, which is unfortunate, in my opinion. They just want to know, can I kick butt? Right. Essentially. Right. And that's the focus. So when I teach, I still use all that. I still use all of that when I'm teaching. But trust me, if I come back tomorrow and ask them, what is this called? They will not remember. Right? Yeah. It's just not something that they think is important. So I just break it down into that. If I intercept, they understand; evade, they understand; destroy, they understand.
Right. What's your theory? Because, like you said, it affects both the kids and the adults. This shortened attention span. Is that because the adults picked up on the technology? They got interested in this stuff too?
Everybody's got interested. Sifu, sometimes I don't see messages on, this is my wife's phone, by the way, not mine. We swap, but I don't see messages on this for 2 days or 3 days. Mm-hmm. I have people who cannot, students who come in here, even though we tell them to turn off devices and stuff, who must run to this every time they hear a beat.
Right.
They're so connected to their devices that they can't go a minute or 2 without it,
Yep.
And that's the stage that we've gotten. And the kids are there, but the adults are just as bad. And so, and again, it's easy to swipe. Is it right?
I have no idea.
Swipe right, as they say. Because again, for the adults, that's why, remember now it's 30 seconds. If you're posting, it has to be at least 15 to 30 seconds. More than
reels or whatever, right?
Yeah. So you have reels, you have your stories, you have all these different options. But generally speaking, if you don't get your message out in 15 to 60 seconds, they've already gone on to something else. So when I post, for example, I check, it tells you how much your post has been viewed. It tells you how many times it's been replayed, and it tells you what the average viewing time is. And the average viewing time right now, if I look at this, most of the time is somewhere between 8 and 15 seconds.
Right.
So if you can't get your message across even to adults in that time frame, they're gone. They're gone on to the next exciting thing. So it's very challenging in many ways, but that's the world we live in, and we have to find ways of being able to get our message across.
Yeah. We were out in LA recently, and so I picked up my phone to take a picture, and one of the guys saw, I don't know if I can get this on camera here, but one of the guys saw that I have like 200 phone messages and 128 text messages, right?
That you haven't read yet.
That I haven't. Right?
Well, that's it. It's like I say all the time. I say to my wife, like, she's like, the people call and you don't answer and whatever. And I said, well, what happens if it's important? I say this: if it was important, they would have called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because if it was that important, and you would not send me a text and hope that I saw it, you would pick up the phone and call.
Well, I think everybody expects that everybody else treats these devices the same way they do.
Yeah.
Right. Like I try to call people. Like if you're important to me on your birthday, I try to call. I don't send a Facebook, I mean, that's for people that are not like real friends of mine or what have you.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody whose phone number I have, then that's probably because we're really friends. So I'll try to call, more than anything else. I think, Wayne, we're just two old schoolers, that.
Well, we'll bring the old school back because there's a lot of value in it. I'm not a traditionalist in the sense of, it has to be done this way because that's the way it was done before. Mm-hmm. But I am a traditionalist in the sense of, if there's value to something, don't discard it just because.
So are you a conservationist? Which is not to be confused with conservative. Are you a conservationist?
Well, and if my interpretation of that word is the same as yours, then yes, because I believe in, or a preservationist in some degree, because I believe in preserving things of value. So if there's value in what you're doing, don't just change it because. So I drive an old car, primarily because I can't afford a new one. But the fact of the matter is, even if I have a new one, I'm not going to throw that one away if it's still working.
Right.
Because there's still merit. So I'll give it to someone, or I'll drive it on occasion as a vintage. Right. I'm not just going to get rid of it simply because a lot of people think that's what Jeet Kune is in some ways. We just throw everything out and just try to add the next new flavor of the month in terms of martial arts, which is not what Jeet Kune is at all.
That's the one that I don't understand. But as two old Arizonians, I'm going to have a word debate with you because I cringe every time I see somebody talking about preserving Jeet Kune. Because to me, preserve isn't that what you do with dead stuff?
Yeah. Well, preservation, what do you mean when you say that?
Yeah. Because
if you're talking about a physical thing, then no, because Jeet Kune is not a physical thing.
Okay.
And I think we have a slightly different view of Junfan Jeet Kune. For me, there are progressions, but they're not the same. Jeet Kune is more than Junfan Kung Fu. That's how I look at it.
Me too.
So you can preserve the foundational principles because the truth should be preserved.
Okay.
Right? Truth is truth. So that's something that is, I mean, you don't even have to try to preserve it because it is what it is. You may not recognize it as truth, but that doesn't change the fact. So in the sense of the principle and the philosophy, yes, you want to preserve that in terms of the expression and the physical manifestation, then no, I don't want to do some of the things that Bruce Lee was teaching and doing back in the 1960s, because it's not as functional as some of the things that I've learned since then.
Right.
You know, the world has gotten a lot bigger, and things that Bruce Lee may never have seen in his lifetime as a martial skill is available to us now. We have access to that. And some of it is sometimes more efficient than what he may have been doing in his lifetime. So in terms of Jeet Kune Do, the question always is it more efficient? Is it more effective? And that's how you gauge what you do. Because I'm not going to change something that Bruce Lee did or taught simply because to change it. I'm going to change it if I find a more efficient way of doing it. It's kind of like the question I asked Sifu Dan a couple of years ago. Because if you go back to this book, right, you'll notice that in some of the training methodology, you will see them doing all types of training with equipment. Oh, is it here? Where they're using heavy bag, speed bag, top and bottom bag. I can't find it. You should all have a copy of this book. Go look in there if you haven't. But you would see them using heavy bag, top and bottom bag, speed bag, and so on. And I had asked them a question, but in recent, if you go there today to the Inasan Academy, and I speak subject to correction because I haven't been there since 2019, you will see the heavy bag, but you're not going to see top and bottom bags. You're not going to see speed bag. You're not going to see the de cuerdas dummies and stuff that he used at one point. So my question to him was, Sifu Dan, why don't you use that stuff anymore? Is it that stuff is obsolete, or is it that you've just found a more efficient way of cultivating the attributes that those pieces of equipment provided, considering the numbers you have to deal with? And essentially that's what he said, yes. Right? That's all it was. It wasn't that those things were obsolete.
Right.
It's just that if you have a class of 90 people, you aren't going to have most of us can't afford 90 punching bags and 90 top and bottom bags and so on. We don't have the room for that. Mm-hmm. See, but we do have room maybe for focus mitts. We do have room maybe for double stick. Right. So we can develop certain coordination attributes, certain speed attributes, and so on, using those things. So that is essentially how I view the process of Jeet Kune Do learning. I'm not going to discontinue learning a particular skill or drill or technique that Bruce Lee taught back in the day, unless I've found a more efficient way of achieving the same objective. Because that's what JKD is. Yeah. We're hacking away because I love to train, but I can't train 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's put in too much thought into what you're doing, Wayne. Right? Rather than just following blindly what you heard somebody else did or what somebody else said or what have you. And there's a lot of that. To finish up the thing about academics though, because we talked about this also this week. I cannot remember why I didn't go to Cave Hill. I don't know if I was rejected, right? Because I only had four. I had 4 O levels and 4 A levels.
Yeah.
No, 4 O levels and 3 A levels, I think. So I don't know if
you would have qualified.
So I don't remember. But why didn't you go to Cave Hill?
Well, I did go. I did UE for a year, and then I discontinued. I didn't flunk the exams. I didn't flunk.
What were you studying?
Math and economics. See, because I was just following. Again, I was a follower then, because that's what everybody did. You left college, Harrison College, doing A levels, and you went to university. I couldn't afford to go abroad to university, so I went to university. And of all the things that was being offered, math and economics were the only thing that seemed feasible to me to do, for a degree, because the things I was interested in wasn't offered then, not here. now there's a cinematography program, there's a filmmaking program, now there's a sports medicine program, and so on being offered. But those type of programs were not available at university at the time. So I wasn't in. So I did what I was doing, basically a progression from what I was doing at school. Mm-hmm. And I did it for a year. I sat the exams. I passed, but I lost interest.
Yeah.
And I waited, and plus I had my heart broken at the time too. So, I was getting over heartbreak. And then I went back again and did economics and business management, because by then I started teaching martial arts, and I thought business management would be a good idea. But what I found, two things that kind of, again, took me on a different path was, one, everything I was learning in business management, I had already been doing working where I was working as a sales rep for a company. So all the principles that I was learning for business and economics were principles I was applying already practically. So then it became a question of, well, why am I learning what I already know just to be able to have a piece of paper? So I decided to focus on that which I loved more, and to really accumulate my knowledge. Unfortunately, we don't get degrees in martial arts. If we did, I think we'd have multiple doctorates.
Right, not in our thing, but you could get a 10th degree, right? Not an academic degree or what have you. But Wayne, I didn't know. So this is another thing we have in common, because Cave Hill campus was a source of heartbreak for me too. I didn't even. Yeah. Oh man, that takes me back. Anyhow, so if you had stayed in math and economics, what would you have done? What would you have gone on to do?
Become an economist here and tell people how to run their lives, because that's what economists do here. They pretty much advise the government on policies,
right?
Many of which just put us into more fiscal debt. Right. But that would have been it. I would just have been doing either a government job in economics or some associate, or worse yet, as I know from many students, many people who do have degrees, I'd be working in the field totally different to the field in which I got my degree. Because that, again, is a frustration of living on a small island. There are only so many jobs open in particular fields. And until somebody dies or retires, you don't get the opportunity to really work in your field sometimes. Yeah. So you have a lot of bank clerks who have degrees, but they're working as bank clerks because they can't put their degree in management or what have you into FX, because they can't get a job in that area.
So martial art would have been a part-time hobby.
Yes. See, as was music, and in many cases still is for a lot of people, because a lot of musicians are still part-timers here.
Yeah.
But if you were not in an academic or trade field, then everything else was basically a hobby. So if you said, like I used to, for many years said, well, I'm a martial arts professional, and the next question after that, after what do you do? I'm a martial arts professional, but what do you really do?
Right.
That's that was the nature of the questioning, because being a martial art instructor as a profession was not really something that people could accept, because nobody really can make, well, maybe they're right, because I'm still not making the living I want out of it, but that's how it's viewed. And then music was the same way for many, and athletics for many years. As a musician and as a professional athlete, you could make a living here. It's only within the last 10 maybe 2, if we want to be generous, 20 years,
right,
that you can have full-time musicians and full-time athletes.
So I would have been a translator for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? If I had gone to UE, right? And the other day I was on that WhatsApp group, and Remember the song Bottom Bailey by the Opals?
No, cannot say I do.
Later for you. You're too young.
Maybe if you sung it, I would know it. But
No,
by name,
right.
no.
So the thing about it is that the reason why I can't sing it is because the Opals did it in a West African dialect,
Okay. Well,
right?
that's okay.
You see,
Well,
so
maybe that's why I'm not that familiar.
yeah, so I went on this adventure trying to find out who and or what is a bottom Bailey, and discovered that the original, right, is
Hmm.
bottom Belay, and it's is it Ghanaian? I forget, but it's West African something, and the Opals picked up on it, right, from this.
Oh, billy, 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 bum, bum,
No,
billy,
no, no, no,
bum,
no,
bum.
no.
That
That's
one?
no, 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 no. That's Kelele Pom Pom. That's a different one,
Okay,
right? I haven't
okay.
done I haven't done the research on that one yet, right? But it's bottom. And the reason why I thought about it also was because I swore that I heard Stephen Marley in one of his songs use the phrase bottom Bailey, but then
Okay.
it turns out that he said back and belly. I think I can't remember. But anyhow, right? Why were we talking about this? Um,
Opals.
I know, but why? God damn it! Anyhow, that's a sign to move on, right? The
No, you would have been a translator if you went on to
Yeah,
university. You would have been a
yeah.
translator for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
But thank God for Eastern Airlines,
Yeah.
because I would probably never have gone to Seattle, and then probably never have gone to LA, you know,
Well, I
and
can
then
say thank God for Dwight Woods because I might have been doing Kempo karate. Not that there's anything wrong with doing Kempo karate,
yeah,
as a not because I wanted to do it per se, but that was the best of what was available based on what I was looking for.
yeah,
I would have to have settled, and I'm happy that I didn't have to settle in terms of what I did for martial art.
yeah. Now, in terms of what you did, see, I'm going to rephrase the meaning of that statement. What you did for martial arts, because there's also what you did for martial arts, not what you did for martial arts. What you did for martial arts, because you almost single-handedly revived stick science in Barbados.
I don't like to say. Well, I'm happy to use that term almost because I don't want to take
Well, because
credit
I know
for
how you are. I know how you are. That's why I said almost single-handedly. I
right.
know how you are.
But yes, we have our own indigenous martial culture, which we call stick science or stick licking. It's really interesting. Well, again, I was doing some reading and I'm always researching. So, um, but that is ours, and that's a blend of African martial art and the influence of European martial art. I would like to say African martial art through the European route and African martial art directly through transatlantic slavery. But again, I have to finish my verification before I make that bold assertion. Um, but yeah, and so we have that, and it is a very effective fighting system. Unfortunately, it is not a very popular. It was popular up until the 1930s. It pretty much died by the 1960s in terms of popularity, and so there are only like less than a handful of qualified teachers of stick science. Now there's an effort by our National Cultural Foundation to revive it. So they're making efforts to do that. How successfully, I cannot say
Mhm.
or would not say. For me, I learned science from stick fighters, people who actually competed with it, fought with it, and also protected themselves with it in life and death situations. So for me, it is I approach it from a combat system approach.
Right.
I learn it because it's a functional fighting system. I do not approach it from I'm learning it as a cultural expression. And so for me, the integrity of the art is important. So when I practice it, when I do it, if you will see the combative aspect or element to it. I'm not sure that some of the other persons who express it are doing that. I think they're doing it more. They're trying to, in the same way that Kung Fu Wushu became the
national
expression
product.
of the expression of the commercial product, an expression of Chinese martial art. And the same way Kalinda in Trinidad has become the expression. So if you talk about Kalinda in Trinidad, you think more of the dance aspect and the performance aspect more so than the fighting aspect of Kalinda. They're trying to do that, I gather here, which for me is a disservice to the art form, because it was recognized as one of the most functional stick fighting methods within the Caribbean and even within North America. So if you grew up in the South in the 60s, between the 1920 up to about 1960, particularly within in that World War I, World War II period, and you came across a Bajan, and you speak to anybody who came across a Bajan within that period, they would speak of Barbadians with a lot of respect, because Barbadians could hold their own in a fight. So there's stories within that farm belt. You're talking about Florida, you're talking about North Carolina, Louisiana. Well, my American geography is not the greatest, but with that farm belt area where there was migration between Caribbean people to the farm labor programs.
I think isn't there a documented migration from Barbados to South Carolina?
Yeah, we populated South Carolina. We also influenced your political system. Basically, you borrowed it from us. But let's not go into all of that, because then I will have to stop and give you all the history lesson.
Well, no. Wait. No, let's do that history lesson a little bit, because wasn't Barbados the first, in terms of parliamentarianism? Barbados was the first what?
Barbados was, well, we started with the Westminster system, which was the English system,
right.
But the whole question of representation. Remember the Boston Tea Party and that catchphrase, no taxation without representation?
Yeah.
Borrowed from Barbados. You also know that George Washington resided in Barbados for a while when he was to get back to heal from whatever.
I know.
By the time he left Barbados and went back to the United States, he had a lot of ideas that he took with him that might have influenced the American Revolution. But, right? But 10% of the Barbadian population migrated to the Carolinas and populated. So when you start to look again at a lot of the influences of American political structure, you see a lot of influence from the Carolinas. And then when you start to track the history and of persons of political influence, Shirley Chisholm, they actually made a movie recently on Shirley Chisholm. I don't know if you saw it. Whose parents, her parents were Barbadian. And she actually grew up and was raised in Barbados. And then she went back in her later years to live in the US, and she was the first person to run, first African-American to run for president in the United States. It's a pretty good, interesting movie to watch. But you will hear today about her influence in the American political system, right? But a lot of her influence came from her upbringing in Barbados, and the lessons she would have learned here. And there's some they do allude to it in the film as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a strong tie between Barbados and the US and our influence there. Even in your fighting systems, if you look at Jailhouse Rock and 52 Blocks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's interesting that a lot of the movement and the terminology that they use are similar to the terminology that we use in stick science here. Um, so
really.
that's, yeah, right. Even the mention of the square and compass, which is interesting. They use it. They reference on. I'm still doing research, but they reference the square and compass in sticks in 52 blocks, which comes from the square and compass of the lodge, the Masonic Lodge,
Mhm.
right? And in New York in New York, which a lot of the 52 block practitioners now seem to reside.
Right.
The first Masonic Lodge was first African American Masonic Lodge. It was in New York, and the first person who actually formed that lodge was a Barbadian. Um, and where does a lot of the hidden knowledge, so-called hidden knowledge, come from? Usually from the Masonic lodges. So it's very possible. Cannot verify it yet. I'm still researching. It's very possible that the fighting methods of Barbados came through that route to into New York and also into the Carolinas, because in the Carolinas they have a fighting system which is what's knocking and kicking and knocking, they call it. Um, and a lot the stick licking is also a term that they use in the Carolinas, right?
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of research to garner, and before I verify, I have to, do some more verification before I, make grand assertions.
Yeah.
Um,
If I remember correctly, the first time I heard the Gullah
yeah,
speak down, I thought they were Bajans.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
without a doubt, I was sure that they were Bajans. But see, so now a lot of what you just talked about might go way over the heads of people because they're like, I thought this was the Jeet Kune Do dialogues, and they will not understand why what you just talked about is JKD.
Is relevant.
Yeah,
Okay,
they won't
because
understand.
again, I will refer them to these tenets. The truth in combat is different for each individual. Research your own experience for the truth. Absorbing what is useful, rejecting what is useless, and adding what is specifically your own
Yeah,
creation.
but they'll tell you. But you know what the argument against that is? You don't spend enough time on Facebook to know what the argument against that is. That's not a Bruce Lee saying. That is something that Dan Inosanto took from the book that Bruce Lee gave him and made the sign, right?
Okay, the book that Bruce Lee gave him.
Yeah.
So, why did Bruce Lee give him that book? Because there was nothing of merit in it.
Right.
Oh,
In
Seafood
fact,
Dwight, I have this really good book for you to read, but really and truly, it's a
yeah,
book of fiction,
yeah.
and it's just good reading. you know, it makes no sense. If
Yeah,
I'm going to give you if I'm going to reference or I'm going to tell you, watch this film, we'll read this book, have a conversation with this individual, it is because I believe they have something of value to add to your life.
yeah, man.
Otherwise, I'm not going to waste your time with
You
it.
you you have no idea the contortions into which these people will twist themselves to avoid giving people credit. I have a guy right now this morning talking about. Um, he actually said if Bruce Lee was to come back to life, he would kill Dan Inosanto because Dan Inosanto um, changed Jeet Kune Do for the money.
Certainly, he does not know who Dan Asado is.
Right? But that's not the first time this week that I saw someone allude to that, right? That Inosanto created Jeet Kune Do concepts so he could make money off Bruce Lee's name.
Okay, so here's the thing, the funny thing, because I've been blessed, yeah. I've been blessed because I was your student from Barbados who had to hang by your coattails whenever I came to the States. So I got to be in the inner sanctum of many conversations that would not be privy, a lot of people will not be privy to. I hope I don't divulge any information that I shouldn't, but I do remember, as probably my first, that same first seminar with Sifudan, having a conversation about him and how he would teach. I won't say what he did, but he would tell me how he was able to get rest. He was mentioning how he was able to get some sleep while he was working on a job as a security guard.
Right.
How he was able to get in his naps while he was working so that he'd be able to go and teach and train in martial arts. All right. And this was back in the days of I believe, the Kali Academy and so on. So if Daniel Sano was in it for the money, why was he working as a security guard? Would be my question. Why would some, if I could make so much money saying that I'm a student of Dwight Woods, and I could charge X amount of dollars because of that, why would I choose to do a job and have to work for a living, making a minimum wage?
Yeah.
I don't know what security guards in the United States make, but here it's a minimum wage. So I don't see the merit in that conversation. That is a waste.
Well, there is no merit to what the individual is saying. So what I try to do is to simply point out to him, this guy in particular, look, you only just came on the scene. So you don't know a whole lot. And you certainly do not know enough to have an opinion that casts aspersions on somebody else, because there's no way that you were there to know it for yourself. So you're probably just parroting something that you heard somebody else say. So I'm just trying to point out to him the inanity behind what he's doing.
Yeah, I had that
And
same experience. Where well, in my ignorance and my youth in JKD, I got deflated by a conversation with someone who was, again, a JKD person. Won't call his name, but he used to sell pirated copies of movies in New York. And he was like, Dan Asano is this thing, which is not what Jeet Kune is. And he's moved away from even the Filipino martial arts, using lighter, smaller sticks and blah, 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 blah. And this was before my visit in 92. So I was yeah, this was before my visit. So I had never met Sifudan at that point, up to that point. All I had was what I was reading about Sifudan in books and magazines. And to me, what I was reading, what I was understanding, Sifudan was, 220 pounds, 6'3". And this guy was telling me, oh, well, Daniel Sando is yada, 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 not this, blah, 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 whatever. So I was like, okay. And this was someone who had met him and trained. So by the time I met Sifudan, and I think I may have mentioned this to you before, when he came out when I met him for the first time at the airport, because I tagged along with you guys, and I saw Sifudan walking out of the airport. And he wasn't 6'3", and he wasn't 220 pounds. He was, more like 5'4", 150 or whatever. I was like, well, maybe what this guy said might be true, because this guy isn't all that he appeared. And I think he was ill at that time too. So he isn't all that maybe I thought he was.
yeah.
Until the first day of the seminar.
Yeah.
And then any doubt I have to his ability and who he might have been was totally, eye opener for me. I was like, I giggled, sorry to say, like a girl in some cases at that seminar. particularly when Sifu Dan started teaching shoot wrestling and put me into, did some of those leg locks on me. I was like, because for me, it's like, yes, this is what I thought it would be. This man knows his stuff, and he is the real deal. But sometimes you have to have that personal experience, I guess. Again, you have to research, you have to experience it for yourself. And until that happens, you can easily be misguided or deceived by what you see, what you read, because anybody can look good for 10 seconds on Instagram. You can create a 10-second video and look really good on video for 10 seconds. Anybody can do that now. But when you're challenged with the work, then that's where the truth starts to come out.
Are you still going on TV in Barbados for martial arts?
Not recently, not for a couple of years. I'm thinking about maybe I need to do that again. One, because again, Jeet Kune is dying. And that's one way. Jeet Kune, like stick science in Barbados, is dying in the sense that, I mean, not even here, just here. From my observations, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm reading, and this is me on the outside looking in. When I say from the outside looking in, I'm talking about the political structure of martial arts in JKD. There are a lot of people in Jeet Kune who have now relegated it to just another martial art.
Yes.
So when you read their comments and you read what their threads and everything else, it's like, well, I've trained in judo, I've trained in boxing, I've trained in this, I've trained in Jeet Kune, it's just another art. And I think we need, well, those of us who still truly appreciate what Jeet Kune is, we need to make sure that we re-educate people and bring that back, Jeet Kune, to the fore. I am most, I should say disappointed, maybe not disheartened, but I am concerned that there are a lot of really good JKD people who are doing really good work with athletes and with teaching functional martial arts to the masses, but they don't ensure that Jeet Kune is given the credit, because for marketing purposes they have reframed and relabeled what they do. But you can't hide you can't hide the JKD, that they are JKD. Right. Because just in the way they move and the way they teach and the way they put things together, you can see the Jeet Kune. You can tell the JKD. But if I were a 10, 15, 20-year-old kid coming to them, I wouldn't know that an art called Jeet Kune existed. Or if it did, I would think that it was just like doing karate or just doing boxing or whatever. They don't, the process that is Jeet Kune is not at the forefront of expression and thought. And that is a big concern for me. Because the filter, for me, I said to everyone, Jeet Kune is the filter. And if you look at the expression of martial art through these individuals, whatever they call it, it is not what it is until it went through the JKD filter. So I am now a senior instructor in Muay Thai under Ajahn Chai. So I can say this now because there's nowhere else to go. In my humble opinion, WTBA Muay Thai is as great as it is because of the influence of a gentleman by the name of Daniel Sano, who influenced Ajahn Chai. And Ajahn Chai may not recognize that because sometimes you can be so close. basically just by association, just by being around someone, you can be influenced by their energy,
Right.
that you don't even realize that you're being influenced. But the way Muay Thai is taught and structured within the WTBA, there is no way on God's earth that JKD did influence it. If you look at Silat, Majapahit Silat, as it is taught by Dan Lozano, you see the JKD filter it went through. If you look at the Filipino martial arts as taught by Dan Lozano, you would see the Filipino,
The JKD filter.
the JKD filter it went through. Even if you look at Savat as taught by, and I've had conversations with Professor Astley when he was here, when we brought him here for seminars, you can see the influence of Jeet Kune Do as he teaches Savat. And in my humble opinion, Professor Salem, I mean, I can't say that I've trained with that many saboteurs, but of striker, if we look at it, we're just within the realm of striking. There's very few people I feared as a striker receiving from that person, as I did Professor Astley. The way he could use, the way he was weighted with his body. This guy, I mean, he could just rest his foot on you and you felt it, you know? So far less if he actually kicked you. And for me, the JKD, that was the JKD filter with him again. And you go through it. If I look at CSW, I see the JKD filter. If I look at For the Street with Burton Richardson, you name it, BJJ for the Street, whatever, Battlefield Cali, you see the JKD filter. If I look at the Kelsey method, which I know very little of, but I see the movement. I see the JKD influence.
Oh, Kesey.
Right?
Kesey, you mean?
The Kesey method. Yeah. Sorry, Kesey. I can see where JKD has influenced that. And I can go on and on and on.
Right.
If you look in the ring in MMA, before I realized that these people were trained by this person who is a JKD person, I was saying that person is moving like, and then I realized, oh, okay, they train with Greg Nelson or they train with Eric Paulson and so on. Oh, okay, that explains it, you know, and that is just the reality of it. There is no way that you can experience Jeet Kune Do in its true form, not going through the motions of doing drills and patterns and doing it mechanically like a style. But if you actually learn the process of Jeet Kune Do, the principles and philosophies, there's no way that you can look at anything that you do martial art wise and it not be influenced and it not be better as a result of Jeet Kune Do.
I think, you know, you mentioned Bert's For the Street stuff, right? And as you were saying that, it occurred to me, For the Street really is another way of saying having gone through the Jeet Kune Do filter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's it. That's all it is. See? Because, okay, let's look at, if you look back, just let's for now, because I'm a big fan of Silat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been pulling up and researching Silat online, watching the Indonesians and Malaysians doing Silat. And I see a lot of what we're taught in there.
Yeah.
But I also see why a lot of what they do, we aren't taught. Right?
Yeah.
Because when you do put it through the filter, then you know, well, okay, that's fine for that environment, or that is fine, you know, back in, you know, 20 years, 30, 40 years ago, that is fine. But within today's environment, dealing with the kind of individuals that we're dealing with, then this element of it isn't really functional for the street. You know, right. I'm not going down on my knees on asphalt to do anything if I can avoid it. Just like BJJ, there's some things I love BJJ. I enjoyed training in it, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm taught in BJJ that I would never do outside of competition. And I'm not in BJJ for competition. I'm not in it as an athlete to compete in sport. So I don't have the benefit. I don't expect to have the benefit of a soft mat when I'm out there on the street. So there's certain things I'm definitely not going to do. You know, I can see it working in a sport in a sport environment, but I don't see it in the street. And that's what I tell a lot of the guys I play here when I go to jujitsu. You know, you're teaching me this. Yeah, I understand it. I appreciate it, but I'm not going to do that. I'll do it this way because this way makes more sense to me if I'm in a street fight.
Did you see this? Did you see this picture from birth?
No, I have not.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Right. I think the caption for this was when your BJJ is infused with Jeet Kune principles.
Okay.
Right?
I probably would have done it a little differently.
So
I would have used a BJJ logo and put the JKD as a shadow behind it.
Okay. Right. But so I told him I foresee a bunch of people copying this idea.
Yeah.
You know, and the way he has put the belt tips on the arrows, right? I can see people like put in the Filipino flag colors or something.
Yeah.
Right on that tip, and just and just going to town.
Yeah, but that's the reality of it. The reality of it is that Jeet Kune, that's why I said I would put the JKD as a shadow behind, because the reality is if you look deep enough, you will see JKD and everything.
Wayne, we never determine whether or not we are actually related, right?
No, you mentioned that you're related to Quintynes in Trinidad, and they're
right. And I do have a cousin named Wayne Quintyne.
Yes,
okay?
I am aware.
Right. Okay. Because what you're talking about there, do you know there's an episode of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast which talks about Jeet Kune Do being invisible?
Yeah. I missed that episode, but yes.
As in a shadow.
Yes.
Right? Because you can't see it, because it's so interwoven.
And it is in keeping with Bruce Lee's mindset when he said, I have not created anything new, composite. I can't remember the whole quote. But Jeet Kune Do, for me, I always think of Jeet Kune Do about like a born again experience. Or as Bob Kiss said to me where filmmaking was concerned, when he says that if you do a course in filmmaking, you will never view a movie the same way again. Right? Because when you realize what it went into creating a particular shot, the panning, the zooming, and everything else, when you're watching that film, all of that stuff is going to be in your mind. Wow, this isn't just a great movie, but that was a great production, how they put that scene together. And for me, Jeet Kune Do is like that. Once you've experienced Jeet Kune Do, it's like a born again experience. You cannot look at the world in the same way. You cannot look at martial art in the same way. It's impossible.
I had that filmmaking experience when I got to meet and know about Jeff Imada, and I got interested in behind the scenes of movie making, right, and the stunt work and what went into it. So that, remember when HBO had, I don't know if they still do it because I've not watched HBO in decades, but they used to have a thing. So like a movie would be coming out and they would have a mini documentary called The Making of. And I remember I used to enjoy watching The Making of, and I would not be that interested in the final product, you know? And then I used to annoy girlfriends and what have you, because we would be watching stuff and I would be talking about where the camera was and how many cameras there might have been, and how, oh, look, they took that from this thing. And then the worst was when I could tell you what they were going to say in the dialogue coming up.
Yeah. What is that?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, and the thing
That's like
is,
me watching most action movies today
yeah,
and laughing because everything is a remake of Bruce Lee's movies. So,
all the action films.
all pretty much every,
Yeah.
because nobody has come up with a new idea yet. So you have the mirror scene in Enter the Dragon. You have
Yes.
the pagoda scene. You have the pagoda scene in Game of Death, and you Coliseum scene. Everybody's particularly martial art action film, is based on some element of a Bruce Lee film. You know,
That's true. Right.
and but they don't all give credit to the fact that they were influenced and inspired by it, but many don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why when I was watching Joe Rogan interview Chad Stahelski, I was like, God damn, I could have done a much better job of interviewing Chad,
Yeah.
than, but okay, but I got to tell you this story because you probably didn't see it. You know who Michael McDonald is, the singer?
Yes. Keep
Okay.
forgetting.
Yes,
One of my favorite
exactly.
songs.
Okay. So I'm coming back from LA a couple of weekends ago. This guy sits next to me. And, I'm like, oh, I think this guy looks familiar. And then I'm just like, maybe, everybody looks like somebody else. When we get off the plane and we are in baggage claim, there's a limo driver that has come to pick up people. And her placard doesn't say Michael McDonald. It just says artist, right? So the next day I'm on Facebook, and the guy on Facebook puts up a post, famous person that you got to meet. So of course, having met Mick Jagger in Barbados, having met Cheryl Teagues in Barbados, or whatever. But at that instant, Wayne, I realized that it was Michael McDonald that I had been sitting next to from LA to
Yeah.
Miami for 5 hours.
Okay.
Right? So
That's like me and Kurt Franklin.
okay, right? So a guy says to me, he goes, "Oh, Dwight, Michael McDonald trained in Kung Fu with Malia Bernal de Cascos."
Okay.
I'm like, no, God. Right? So Michael McDonald and I have the Cascoses in common.
Yes. Mark and me. Al.
Imagine, right? Imagine the conversation he and I could have had.
Happens. That's like I bumped into 3 occasions in the same day. I bumped into a Hati Kalindi, and I wanted to speak with him. But the first time I was at the seminar, he came by the Insano Academy, and I was out on the floor training. So it was like, okay, well, it wouldn't be right for me to leave who I'm training with to just go talk to this guy. So I said, shucks. Well, afterwards, but I missed, he left by the time I got there. I ended up at the airport in California, and who's checking in ahead of me? I had Kalini E. So I said, okay, when I check my bags and stuff, I'm just gonna chat him up. When I did, I turned around, he was gone. Then a little later when I went in, I saw him, but it was something I was doing that I couldn't get away, and I passed him. Right. And I saw him again 3 times in the same day. Next I heard he passed away during COVID. Yeah. And I was so pissed off. I was like, because, I'm kind of, and the same thing happened with Sifu Larry Hartzell at Insano Academy. He, Edgar Saluti, and he and Sifu Dan would do a private lesson with Funangura Edgar Saluti. So again, I don't want to go and interrupt these guys and, to introduce myself and stuff, because us kids growing up in the West Indies, you're taught to be humble and,
Yeah.
But after that, I've said to myself, anytime I see someone of note who I have respect for, who's influenced me in any way, I don't care what it is, I am going to excuse me. I don't mean to be rude, but I just want to let you know that you've been a big influence in my life.
Mhm.
Have a great day. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
because that can happen. You can have people within your spirit, you know, and you're always thinking, well, next time I'll catch them next time, or when there's a better time, but you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I was looking to bring Salem again, and then I heard of his accident. I saw the interview you did with Salem. I was saying, okay, I'm so happy to know that
Right.
he's doing better.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, he's passed.
Yeah.
And Neil Coliff was on that same interview. He come in on that same interview with Professor,
Mhm.
and again, he too had passed, and these are guys who have gone out of their way to make me comfortable when I was in the U.S.
Right.
And you didn't get the chance. I didn't get the chance to tell them how much I appreciated it. I didn't get to tell Silem how much I appreciated him coming to Barbados those 3 occasions to teach Sabat, you know, because he could have gone elsewhere. He didn't have to make the concessions that he made to be here,
Mhm.
you know, because a lot of other instructors that I've spoken to have not been willing to make concessions,
Right.
understanding our particular situation.
Right.
But Salem did, and he came 3 times. Girl, Vix Gingiano came, and again, another big person, another great person who's made me feel very comfortable when I was in LA, who took his time out and pulled me aside and took me on his wing, so to speak. And then he passed before. I mean, I would see him when I always did his classes when I went to the Insana Academy, but to actually sit down and have that conversation about how much it meant for him to do that, just, you know, to be a big brother or a big or older uncle to me. That was something. So it's all that just to say, let people know, give people their flowers while they're alive. I think
Yeah.
that's a common statement that they make in the U.S. now. You know, giving people their flowers. We say don't buy us any wreaths, but you guys say give people their flowers. So.
Yeah. All right. So I got to start getting ready for my 3:30 private lesson. So
Okay.
we'll wrap this up. I'm just going to put this up on screen.
Oh, my favorite photograph of all time. That is my favorite photograph. And notice the angelic nature of Sifudan.
Yeah.
And this was not, no camera. This was just taking a picture. I think this might have even been with one of those store-bought cameras.
Yeah.
I don't even think I took this with a regular camera.
And there's never been a time when you and I didn't look more related. Seriously.
Yes,
Right?
I can see it. I can see the resemblance.
I think that's the picture. That's the picture that says, man, these guys, they gotta be brothers or something, right? And Tim just noted, do you know that this is upstairs at the Innisano Academy on the wall?
I saw it the last time I went because I did my first full jiu-jitsu class
Upstairs.
in 19 with Professor Padilla.
Yeah.
So when I went up to that class, I saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
All right.
But it's one of my favorite photos for sure.
All right. Well, look, we gotta do something where we end up in LA together. Um, I'm thinking also,
Again, we did that I think twice before, but we have to do it
right?
again. Not
Yeah,
for
we gotta do
long,
it again,
not for a very long time.
right? Then, also, I'm thinking I got to find a way to get you here next year in February for Titans with.
Well, you know, if I saw the promotion of that probably like a month before.
Uh-huh.
So it was too late for me to be able to make it happen. Otherwise, I would have been there.
Okay.
But for sure, I
Yeah.
will try
Because
to.
Those two you've not met yet, right? Chris Kent and Cass
Um,
Magda.
no, not in person.
Right.
The closest thing I've come to meeting Cass Magda is that photograph and that autograph photograph of him on your that was on your desk that says it says something along the line of imagination is the greatest teacher, but too much imagination can lead to hallucination. Something along that line.
I have that picture.
Yes, you have an autograph picture with Cass with that quote. And I always thought it was very interesting because that imagination can lead to hallucination.
Hallucination. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know where he's going with this. Right?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, cool. Then the other thing is, so Ron Reagan Goldstein and I have been traveling out back and forth. And when I met Ron, I found out that we had an Asano in common. And then he says, and then, I was telling him, yeah, I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in Barbados. He goes, I used to go to Barbados all the time because his daughter went to school at Codrington, right,
Okay.
in Barbados. So
Yeah. I
so
used to teach there actually.
I predict that at some point Ron Reagan and I will end up in Barbados too.
Okay. You know who was here recently? Stephen Joffe. I think how you pronounce his last name. Joffe. Apparently we had met at the Asana Academy a while back, and then he was in Barbados. Was it early this year or late last year?
Yeah.
Pakiti Tercia Kali.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting experience.
Nice.
We didn't have a lot of time, but it was interesting to see how Pakiti Tercia expresses their FMA. And some of the drills that I had previously learned, I got a different take on it, and it was pretty cool. See,
Sweet.
that's why it's always good to keep your cup empty.
Yeah. All right. So you got to teach at 3:30 also?
I have to actually go back and pick up my wife, and who's been calling, I believe, for a while. So.
Let me not get you in trouble, my friend.
45. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'm glad we were able to find the time and put this together. Actually,
Yeah.
you might start a trend. I think I like doing 12 noon instead of 6 p.m. on a Friday.
Okay. Well, happy to oblige.
Because now when I finish with my client Simon at 4:30, I'm ready to party.
Oh, well, I have clients who tell you that they don't train on Fridays or Saturdays.
Right.
That's their bar time.
Oh man. All right, my friend. You take care. We'll do this again. All right.
Yeah, and a shout out to Tim Betchener. I actually have an apology for him because I have some articles for him that I haven't gotten around to finish it. And part of it was because I had this great idea for an article on the efficacy of trapping still. Right? Trapping as a discipline, the effectiveness of trapping in today's combat environment still. And then, lo and behold, Sibat Burt brings out a whole series on trapping. So it kind of like burst my bubble.
Still do it, man. Still do it. I know what you're talking about because I remember people were like, well, why don't you have videos? I'm like, well, Paul Vunak's got videos. Burt Richardson's got videos. Cass Magda has a video out there, right? People don't need a video from me. It's not true. It's not true. Do your thing.
Yeah. So I still have some articles to write because it's interesting. Like I'll finish with this before if you don't mind before I go.
You get in trouble.
Everybody's big on MMA, and there are some very wise people who will tell you about the efficacy of MMA over everything else. And if Bruce Lee were alive today, the MMA champions of today would kick his butt and yada, 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 and so on. And we even have JKD people who are like, well, MMA is not really that bad. They're writing Bruce Lee's coattails and everything else. But if there's one thing that MMA verifies beyond a shadow of doubt where combat is concerned, is the effectiveness of a finger to the eye and a kick to the groin. Just check it. It doesn't matter how great a champion they are, what belt they have, when they get a finger in the eye, what happens? When they get a kick in the groin, what happens? They're always stoppage and given time to recover. So the BUG Noitek BUG, that is a staple. If you want to talk about Jeet Kune technique, it would be that. Right? That is verified every day in combat sport. So if you're not training the finger jab and you're not training the groin kick, then one might say that you're not training Jeet Kune.
Straight blast?
Yes, but straight blast works in certain environments under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
I wouldn't straight
You've
blast.
seen guys in the ring do it, right?
Yes, I've seen it done. I've also seen Jutsu done. Like I said, for trapping, I have a lot of video of trapping. You know who does a lot of trapping really well in his fights? What's his box? His Irish boxer. He fought recently. I'm terrible with names.
I can't help you. I don't follow much of that stuff.
I'm forgetting his name, but he's Irish kickboxer. He had a life story, drugs and poverty and so on. He does a lot. Man, his name is slipping me right now, but I have the video. But he does a lot of trapping. He traps and hits so well. The first time I really noticed, Bacau does a lot of trapping too. My girl, Janet Todd, she did a beautiful Jutsu elbow that I have it saved. I'm going to put it up on when I do the trapping, but she did. And I do not know if Adrian Brand Portjoy ever trained in JKD. I suspect he has. But he's known for Muay Thai. But Janet is one of his top athletes that he trains. And when she did that, I was like, whoa, okay. I'm pretty sure that Brian actually was trained in JKD. Just from seeing that, it was like amazing. So there's a lot of good trapping, but again, the problem with trapping as a range of fighting, particularly when we're speaking of Jeet Kune, is everybody sees trapping in terms of Wing Chun when they talk about Jeet Kune and trapping. Right. They don't realize that there are other forms of trapping that we have in the clinching, in Dumog, and so on. So a lot of it is the problem of perception.
Yeah. All right. Get going.
Okay, sir.
All right. You take care.
See you.
All right.
Yes. All right. Okay. I can blame it all on you. Don't worry. When I see her, I'll just blame it all on you.
All right. No problem.
All right. See you. All right. See you.
See ya.
Okay.
All right. So like Bucky Barreto said, yeah, this is a relaxed edition, island style of the Jeet Kune dialogues. All right. That was my boy, my good friend, Wayne Quintyne, episode 300. You guys go ahead and comment on anything. If you have any questions for Wayne, go ahead and put them in. I'll ask him to look at it, and I'll go through them and see if there's anything that I need to look at also. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. You can support the Jeet Kune Dialogues on the YouTube channel. Just click the join link, and that's where you can see the different levels of membership that we have just right there on the YouTube. You can also support the show by visiting jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you'll see stuff like this, the coffee mugs, the different t-shirts, all that good stuff. jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link. And last but not least, the Jeet Kune Journey Volume 1, raw but edited, is available at paypal.me/unifiedma-miami, paypal.me/unifiedma-miami. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the the Jeet Kune dialogues. Okay, so until the next episode, I'm on the road again next Friday, so who knows if I'll be able to do something from the road. We'll be in Reseda at Cas Magda's Silat camp, so who knows, right? And Wednesday of next week, because of the travel schedule, I actually have to switch my group classes from Tuesday and Thursday to Monday and Wednesday. So I'm not sure yet, but I'll do what I can for you guys. So until the next episode, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, signing off. You guys have a great weekend. Talk soon. Take care.